Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us. Topping this week's cattle industry news, the just released results of the National Beef Quality Audit. Every 5 years, the Beef Checkoff funds a nationwide study that looks at the state of our industry and the product we produce. The three-phase Checkoff funded program took nearly a year to complete, and now we can confirm our industry is in a state of continuous improvement. And joining me in the studio to share more information on that continuous improvement is Dr. Jeff Patterson, Executive Director of Producer Education for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Dr. Keith Belk, he's one of the lead investigators and from Colorado State University. Dr. Jeff Saville, he's from Texas A&M University and also one of the lead investigators. And finally, Dr. Jason Ahola, one of the lead investigators also from Colorado State University. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Now, before we get into our conversation, we want to hear from Dr. Tom Field. He's now with the University of Nebraska and was a guiding force as the audit was conducted. Dr. Field says research like this is key to the future of our industry.
There are three big things we have to do as an industry. Number one, we must deliver eating satisfaction every single time to our consumer. Secondly, we need to absolutely protect, defend, promote, and enhance the product integrity of beef. In other words, all those composite traits that influence whether a consumer likes the product, trusts the product, and trusts the process that created the product, we must enhance those at every chance we get. And the third active step for us as an industry is to very proactively and relentlessly tell the beef story so that people can connect to what it is that we're doing.
Well, let's get down to our discussion, and Dr. Patterson, I want to start with you. You know, the audit, I understand, has been conducted every 5 years since 1991. Why is it that the industry believes this is so important?
Well, we believe that you can't make progress unless you can measure where we are or where we have been. And so this audit is divided into two major parts. One is we go out and do a lot of measurements in the industry. The second part of that is we bring all that data together and then bring in the experts from all phases of the industry and say, guys, here's the data. Help us develop a strategy from the results that you've seen presented over about a 2.5 day. And so once you get that strategy, then you develop a 5-year plan on how do we continue to make improvement in the beef cattle industry.
Very good. I'm anxious to get into some of that data you're referencing, but before we do, there is a lot of good information in the audit itself. But tell us, who funds it? How is this project funded every 5 years?
We could not have accomplished what we've done in this last year without the funding of the Beef Checkoff, and so this research project comes directly from the Checkoff.
Now, Dr. Belk, you've been involved in these in the past, but tell us how your role was maybe a little different this time.
Well, Colorado State University is responsible for coordinating phase 1 of the National Beef Quality Audit, which is the face-to-face interviews. Face-to-face interviews of some form or fashion of them have been conducted at each of the National Beef Quality Audits. But for the first time in this 2011 National Beef Quality Audit, we added a economic experiment on top of the face-to-face interviews so that when we interviewed various sectors of the industry, which included feeders, packers, retailers, distributors, and wholesalers, and food service companies, and also government and allied industries, that when we returned with the results, that we could actually quantify the things that they said that were important.
Very good. Well, we'll look forward to learning more about that. And Jeff, tell us a little bit about the role and responsibility you and your team at Texas A&M.
We did the what's known as phase 2, which is to go into the plants and actually measure various traits. And so we went to packing facilities around the country, looked at about 18,000 cattle carcasses and byproducts on the harvest floor to assess those characteristics. In the cooler, looked at about 9,000 carcasses to look at quality grade, yield grade, and branded programs and other kinds of measures. And then unique this year, we had the opportunity to receive instrument grading information where we were able to have 2.4 million carcasses to evaluate. So quite a good snapshot of what's going on in the industry today.
Now, Jason, producers haven't been that involved in this audit in years past. How did that change this year?
Yeah, this audit was the first audit to have a phase 3, which was a survey of producers to determine how they might influence quality of beef. So we went out and surveyed producers from the seed stock, commercial cow-calf, stocker operating segments, in addition to the dairy segment, to try to quantify how they might influence beef quality. And some of that was asking them, what did quality mean to them? And some of it was, how do you feel like you influence quality? We also tried to track how much they participated in beef quality assurance programs. And ultimately what we're trying to do is establish a benchmark to be able to compare results from this audit with future audits.
And Jeff, you mentioned the number of data points. How does the depth of this year's audit compare to previous?
Well, without question, looking at all the information that my colleagues have talked about, plus the addition of the instrument grading, we've got the greatest source of information that we've ever have had in any of the quality audits to be able to answer some of the questions that are so key to cattle producers.
Well, thanks, gentlemen, for what's shaping up to be a really interesting discussion. And we're not done yet. Next, we'll take a look at how the Checkoff-funded beef quality audit is helping improve results from pasture to plate. We'll be right back.